everybody. Welcome back. It's one-on-one. Me, Kristian Harloff. Hopefully you knew that. Otherwise, why would you click on the show? Well, probably because of our guests. Probably not even you. It's nice to have you all back. Thank you guys so much, by the way, for joining me over the last couple of weeks. I've been having a blast having this show back. It's been cool to catch up with people. It's been cool to learn new things and find out about these projects that I didn't really know about, and just kind of honestly catch up with friends. Time right now, it stinks being in quarantine and not being able to be around people and all that stuff. And regardless, my guest today is someone I wanted to catch up with for a long time, because we were thick as thieves, kids. We were thick as thieves, and I am talking about the great Tiffany Smith. And so Tiffany, if you guys are old school Schmoes fans, you know she was our third co-host ever on Schmoes. She stuck around longer than most. I don't know how she did it, but she did. She did it, and and then after that, her and I hosted shows on a show on Fandango together, and we had a really great relationship. It was like a brother sister type thing where we would go and we had a snowball fight once at Sundance. That's all that stuff. It was pretty crazy, but either way, she's kicking ass right now. She's a very successful actress now. She always wanted to do it. She always said she was going to do it, and she did it. It's the type of person she is, and I'm excited to talk to her about what's going down and how she's keeping busy right now, what she's doing. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, Tiffany Smith.
Hi.
You're my
so awkward hearing you talk about me, and I'm like, no, when do I get to come on? I'd much rather have you do it than me introduce myself, because that's even more awkward. So
yeah, I know. If you start introducing your things, because you've done this transition of like hosting to very successful host to very successful actress. So it's like you still do hosting though, right?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I love hosting and I love acting. I don't want to do one exclusively over the other. Right. And the interesting thing has been, like, during quarantine, being home, I mean, there's still hosting you can do. There's not really much acting that can be done. Right. So I felt really lucky that, during quarantine, I could still do stuff at conventions, because, me, it's like you're talking about going to Sundance or going to conventions. And I mean, we couldn't do any of that stuff this year. So getting to do it virtually was really, really cool, and getting to host some panels. So
yeah, what'd you host? Did you host some of the DC stuff?
Yeah, I did some stuff for DC Fandom, which was really cool.
Good one.
What?
Good one to do.
Yeah, it was interesting, because I feel like it happened after San Diego Comic-Con did all their virtual stuff. Yep. And so I wasn't sure what it was going to end up like. And then, I mean, the fact that it was 24 hours was so amazing. I think they had like 20 million viewers or something in the 24-hour period. Like, it was crazy how many people logged in and watched. But all that content was only up for 24 hours, which is crazy for the amount of content that they put up.
They did it right. Because it was one of the, to be completely honest, the other stuff that to me hasn't worked yet. Like the big ones, like even New York Comic-Con was okay, and San Diego Comic-Con, there was something kind of fresh and new, and they showed a lot of stuff at DC, which I thought was the reason why it went over as well as it did.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's talk about you, because this is something for other people that don't know. And if you didn't, whether you know Tiffany or you don't know Tiffany, I want to explore certain things that we never really got a chance to talk about on this show anyway. And that's
I'm still not going to talk about dating, Kristian.
About dating? Yeah. And so who are you dating now? No.
Kristian, since day one, if you've seen any of our dynamic, he always tries to talk to people about that kind of stuff. And I've always said behind the scenes, I'm always like, I don't talk about that stuff. You know that, right? And he's like, I know.
No personal stuff at all. So how long have you been dating the person that you're dating right now? Moving on. So let's talk about growing up, though. For people who didn't know, introduced to Tiffany Smith for the first time, like where'd you grow up? Where were you born, by the way?
So I was born in Santa Monica in California, and lived here till I was in about fourth grade. So I feel like I can say I'm a California native, even though I moved in fourth grade, and I've been back out here now for almost 10 years. Okay. Not 10 years since fourth grade, but like, right. So my family lived out here. My extended family's all out here. And then I moved to the East Coast with my family to Pennsylvania. We lived there for a bit, then Connecticut. I went to college in upstate New York and studied broadcast journalism because at the time, I mean, I wanted to do stuff in entertainment from a really young age, but both of my parents were very, very strict about college is get an education and then you can do whatever you want. And so I ended up going to school for broadcast journalism, which I felt like was entertainment related, but not enough that I could, get a job in PR or communications or something in that realm, but still felt like I was learning how to work in front of a camera.
Yeah.
And I always tell people that I'm like one of the classes that you have to do at Syracuse in Newhouse, because there's so many people in LA from Newhouse, which is awesome. The last semester of your senior year, you have to do a class that's every position on a newscast. Okay. So you have to be the producer. You have to get your own stories. You have to edit. You have to produce everybody else's content. Yeah. Then part of the time you're on camera, part of it, you're doing the behind the scenes stuff. So I graduated, and having done all of that, I knew how much it takes to make a show work, but I also knew what I wasn't good at.
Right. Like, what were some of the things you said? No, thank you.
I don't love telling other people what to do.
Yeah.
So producing a show where it's like, you're going to do this story, you're going to do this thing, you're going to go do this thing is not my favorite thing. I like being on camera. I like working with a group of people. So I think now, like, I'm starting to learn a little bit more about different aspects of producing in entertainment. So maybe I'm not a newscast producer.
You've been around it. You're also learning the business more and more that you've been doing it. But I do want to jump back to where you said you're in fourth grade. You're
Sorry, also, I'm just gonna put it out. I got a quarantine dog. He's a foster fail. And he's trying to take a nap, but he's crying a little bit, so I might have to get him out a little bit. But
that's fine.
He was making little squeaking noises. Huh?
What dog is it?
He's a rescue, so he's Great Pyrenees mixed with. He knows I'm talking about him. Can you hear him?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna get him out.
Quick. Go get him. Tiffany Smith is getting her dog, by the way. And
it's gonna get worse if I don't let him out. That's the problem.
Who's surprised that Tiffany got a dog? I'm not.
Come here, Loki.
And Loki, of course. Who is surprised that it's? Oh, wow, he's pretty big.
Say hi, Loki.
Oh, he's big.
Hello, Bubba. He's 5 months old.
Oh, wow. That dog's gonna be huge.
Yeah, he's gonna be big.
Let me see his paws. Show me his paws.
Let's show me your feetsies.
Oh yeah, that's a big dog.
He's still teething. He has teeth around the apartment, which is really interesting and fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was gonna foster him. So I was like, I'm home all the time. And I was by myself for so long that I'm like, it would be nice just to have someone to like talk to, even if it's a dog, or like hug me when I can't touch people.
Yeah.
And I brought him home and had him for like a week. And I was like, how do I adopt this dog now? My parents are obsessed with him. Everybody loves him, which is great. And, it's been good because I feel like I get to be home and train him, which under normal circumstances, like, what our schedules are like when we weren't in quarantine. It's like, I would never have been able to be home and trained him. And he probably is going to be like between 60 and 100 pounds.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to make sure he's really well behaved now. So that way, when he's that big, he's even more well behaved.
Smart. We thought about getting one for the kids also. And still am thinking about it. It's a lot easier when you don't, it's just a lot of, so there's 2 kids plus a dog. It's like, we'll see.
I got him from the LaBelle Foundation. So if anyone is watching and they do want to rescue, the LaBelle Foundation does mostly puppies, which is great.
Oh, wow.
If you want a puppy, they have other dogs too, but it's a lot of puppies that they start with. So he was found like out in a field and just needed a home. So if you want to check them out, they're on Instagram. It's awesome.
Look at that.
And just a foster for a little while.
And fate put him in the Smith Lord's company. How about that?
It's true. True. I literally, you'll laugh, but literally on my way there, I was like, God, universe, just give me whichever dog is the right dog for me. Because you don't pick the dog when you're going to foster, really. Like, you tell them about your space and like what you can accommodate. And, I got there and was like, I could end up with like, I don't know what. And she's like, here's this puppy. I was like, okay, great, cool, bye.
You hang out with them and then you fell in love with them. That's probably, and they bank on that probably too. They bank on whether or not the foster people are going to fall in love, and that's probably what happens.
So hard not to.
But anyway, to jump back talking about you though, Loki's great. But when you were 4th grade, And that's tough. That's what, 10 years old or something along those lines. Give or take.
That's not the kind of stuff I remember, but yes, it was young. I was young.
Give or take 10 or 11 years old. So enough where you remember it. And so your parents move you, and I don't know, was it because of work and stuff? Your parents' job, so the parents' jobs, and you have how many? You have one sister, or how many?
I have one older sister.
Okay, one older sister. And how much older is she?
We're 4 years apart.
Okay, shoot. So she's even that's even tougher, I guess, for her. She's 15 years old or whatever it is. And so you guys move. How do you guys handle that move as kids? Do you remember? Were you cool with it? Was it?
No, I remember, and I like joke about it now because this is so not me. We moved to Hershey, Pennsylvania. And I remember being in the car with my parents and being like, if it doesn't snow on Christmas, I'm going to hate you forever. Yeah. Because that was the
selling point.
Yeah, it was like the selling point. You'll get snow days. It'll snow. It's the East Coast. It'll be great. And I ended up really enjoying it. And the cool thing was, because I had such good friends at a young age out here, a couple of them actually came out to visit. Like, we were at an age, I think it was 5th or 6th grade, where our parents were okay with sending 2 of my best friends from California. They got on a plane and came to spend time with us on the East Coast.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But even when, so you have your friends from the West Coast that come visit, but how hard is it at first to kind of fit in, did you fit in very well? Was it easy? Because I don't know. I know that I changed significantly from when I was younger. To me now, but I don't know if that's the same for you. You always, from the day that I met you, you were pretty easygoing. You have a very warm personality. People wanted to kind of get to know you and talk. But was it always like that, or was it tougher when you were kind of growing up?
It's weird because I remember when I was younger and we'd go to places, I never wanted to ask people questions. If I needed to go to the bathroom, we were at the mall. My mom would be like, you need to go find someone to ask, because I just never wanted to do it. I don't know what my deal was, but I didn't like talking to people that I didn't have to initially. And I think because my mom was like, no, you need to be comfortable. Go up and ask someone a question if you have one. That kind of opened me up more. But then also, I think because I did move so much, I always, Loki too. Hey, buddy. Sorry. I always kind of had to immediately get comfortable talking to new people. Yeah. And now looking back, I'm so thankful for it, because I think it does, with us hosting things, you never know who you're going to be talking to. Right. And now I'm at a place where it's well, at least from all that, I know I'm going to have something in common with almost everyone. You just have to find out what it is.
You got to go through your data bank. And find certain things okay, that person does that. I remember this when I did something. 100%. Yeah. And
it's I genuinely have an interest in people. I like people, and I don't know if it's because I was almost forced to talk to people more when I was younger and I didn't want to, or if it was always there. But I've always been a curious person, so talking to people and making friends has never been too hard. Just because I love people.
So wasn't that tough? When you?
No, it was hard. I definitely wasn't in the cool kids group. When I moved. Right. My mom's a teacher, and so I definitely was school is so important. Hey, buddy.
Was she a teacher at your school?
No. Okay. When I was a lot younger, I did tell a teacher one time, though, that I didn't have to learn in class because I'd just go home and my mom would teach me.
You had a little bit. Okay.
Well, and my mom was like, we can't really be mad because it's smart. Hey, buddy.
Right. And what about your sister, though? Did your sister find friends? And because that's harder for a 15, 16-year-old kid to go and do that.
Yeah, it was one of those things where we were 4 years apart, so we weren't as close when we were younger. We've always loved each other, obviously, but not friend hangs. It was sisters when we're younger, and now we're best friends.
Isn't that crazy though? Because it's not that you guys weren't close, but because I was thinking about this, 4 years apart, now, today, that's nothing. But 4 years when you're a kid, that's might as well be 30 years.
Yeah.
It's are so different. Like things, your circle of friends, the things that you're interested in, it's so radically different. Like my kids are about 5.5, little over 5.5 years apart. And right now, of course, it's get the 3-year-old running around and the 8, almost 9-year-old can play with her and stuff too, but they're not even in the same world and they won't be for years.
Yeah. I mean, I think it took a while for us to get there. And then now it's like you said, it's like 4 years is nothing.
Right.
And I definitely did try and play with them a lot more when I was younger. Where I would, show up places, my sister would be like, no, you cannot play with us. Like, we don't want you to hang out with us. But if anything bad happened or if I needed her, like my sister was the first one to defend me. It didn't matter what the age difference was. So I think I give so much credit to my parents because I think that my mom and dad both have always said, like, you're always going to have your sister. Like, you are always going to have each other. Yeah. So whatever that relationship looks like. And I say this because I definitely, like, she used to hold me back with her hand because I couldn't reach her. And I was like trying to fight her. This is when I was really young. Mm-hmm. And so I also remember one time we'd come home from school and it was just the two of us, and she was in charge because she was older than me.
Right.
And I just remember one time I was so frustrated because she was bossing me around and I legitimately bit her.
Oh no.
Not like drew blood or anything. Yeah. Because I was like, I can't hit her because she'll hold my head back. And I think that was when my parents was like, you guys need you're only going to have each other for always. Like, so work on this. And it's like, we're literally like today, she runs a fitness company called Fit Style by Shayna. And so I've been doing a workout program with her. So we've been Zooming every week with her and a couple other women. So it's really awesome. I mean, now we can joke and
yeah, of course.
Also, this is just like anecdotes from Shayna and Tiffany. When I was really little, because I don't know why she said this or where she learned this from, but she was like, you should just appreciate that you're such a cute kid, because she was like, you only get to be cute for half your life. And I was like, what?
When does it stop?
I guess it's supposed to be when half of your life is over. I don't know. Okay. And now I joke with her about it and I'm like, where did that even come from? She's like, I have no idea.
Yeah, my buddy Steve Simone is a comedian. He talks about this great story. He tells about how him and his brothers are very close now, but when they were his younger brother, but his older, was like the bully out of the three of them, right? To them, not to other kids, to them. And he would kind of dominate them. And he was mean to them. And they had these video game fights and wars. And then they were both all three of them were beating the crap out of each other. And at the end, after after Steve and his oldest brother get into a fight, the oldest says, well, you know what? You were adopted. And there's things that he said to him, and he goes, for years I thought I was adopted.
Oh my gosh!
He has a great conversation about how it turned positive, and he said, you know what, and it made him go, you know what, one day I am going to adopt people. And he had this whole great conversation. But it's a great bit for anybody who wants to go check out Steve Simone on Storytime. But that's awesome. That's another one-on-one. But getting back to you, I had the pleasure of meeting your parents many times. And your dad was an old school Schmoes No fan. Yeah. And talk all the time with him. And, and you hear about stories from people when they talk about their parents and in general. And you talked about how your parents had instilled just so much that you've learned in life. And you could see it when you meet them. They're really good people. They're still together, right?
Yep.
How many years are they married?
So happily married. Oh God.
Ish. Give me ish in a range.
What is it? Shoot. Anniversary. It's 40-some.
A lot of years, man. It's a lot of years, and it's still so. And you've talked about this too. There, you come from a mixed family.
Yeah.
And that's another thing I was curious about, because I'm going from Santa Monica to Virginia. Is that what you said?
No, Pennsylvania.
I'm sorry, Pennsylvania. So did you run into any of that kind of stuff, like people being dicks to you because of race, or you were okay?
I think my parents probably, definitely did experience a lot more than I did.
Moving there, or you're just saying in general?
in general. I mean, they got married in the 70s in California, and still, I mean, there's stories that have stuff that happened here where it's like, this is California. Like, it's not supposed to happen even in the 70s. But you're like, when you think about that stuff, it's, I mean, obviously it's still happening now.
Right.
But yeah, with everything going on in the world right now lately, like I've been able to have some really like more candid conversations with them and stuff, because I think a big thing, I mean, it's like, you know, because you have kids, where it's like you always want your kids' experience to be better than yours was. And so I think a lot of my childhood was my parents being like, you're not going to experience any of the stuff that we did. And keeping us as like protected and educated as they possibly could. And
Right.
so I grew up almost not even realizing that the fact that I was mixed was different or might be seen as weird, you know? I just always thought like, this is my mom, this is my dad. And like when I was really small, we went on a family trip to Hawaii, and this couple came up to my parents and were like, we just wanted to say it's so nice you adopted these 2 little Hawaiian girls. And my parents were like, no, they're ours, right? Yes, Loki.
Yeah.
She's like, they're ours. And she's like, no, we understand. It's so sweet. And she was like, this is my husband. And these are my daughters. Like, so it's just,
Right.
I mean, hey, sorry, he is wanting attention right now. But yeah, so it was, I feel very lucky that I didn't have a ton of negative experiences with, like I said, being multiracial.
Right.
If anything, and this is probably just my like mentality, because I always look for the silver lining, but it's always been really nice for me, like with traveling and stuff, because people will generally assume I'm whatever they are,
Right.
and are super kind. And I mean, we've talked about it, but like I'm Creole, so I'm French, Black, Spanish, Native American, Sicilian, Irish. So it's not just I'm biracial, I'm multiracial. And so it's an interesting spot even to be in with where we are in the world now too, because I'm like, I feel like I'm a physical embodiment of like the gray area, if that makes sense sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I don't experience certain extremes on either end. But I try my best to be the best version that I can be for myself.
Well, that's why I asked. That's why I asked. I remember we've had many of those conversations in the past. Not too much on the air, but and because not only the positivity, and because your parents have gone through those types of situations in their lives, and I'm sure that today's culture is bringing up a lot of probably painful memories for them. But the other thing is that you come from a place of faith, and I had Paul Walter Hauser on not too long ago, and we were talking, and his dad is a pastor and comes from a family of it, and I actually thought of you inside of his conversations of how much like faith is something to him, and how his relationship with God, and what I always admire about you is that because you have you're very strong faith-based and very religious, and you never, from as long as I've ever seen, never pushed it on anyone, never pushed it on anybody.
I appreciate it. I will. It's what's interesting is I think that over the years of my life, like I have refigured like what is spirituality to me. Like I would never call myself religious anymore, because I think that's more of for me at least, religiousness is like I'm supposed to do X, Y, and Z at these times. I do it religiously. I go to a church service on these days at this time. And it works for a lot of people.
But Tiff, has that changed? When has that changed? What would you say?
Probably like the last couple years at least. At least like I would say like 6 or 7. I mean, I what's interesting is like I think that the older that I get, the more I see that there is so much overlap in so many religions, and for me, it consistently comes back to love. That like because of the place that we're in the world right now, I don't find it to be something that I would want to label myself as a Christian, because I'm like, there's so much that is not positive about that right now. Like, I follow and see things that are in the Bible that Jesus said and did that are awesome, absolutely. But it's gotten so twisted and manipulated and used in weird ways and things that I totally don't agree with. So it's one of those things where I will always talk with people about faith and spirituality, but I think it's something that is so, you can't put labels on it, because it's not like saying you're a Christian means so many different things to so many people.
Yeah.
Or saying you're religious or saying you're spiritual. So for me, it's like, I believe there is something greater than us that, loves us unconditionally.
Yeah.
And is inside of me, inside of you, inside of everything. I didn't know we were going to talk about this today, Kristian.
Sorry. Yeah. This is the type of show. I mean, this is what the show is. It's a conversation. I just like to have conversations with people in general, things that are interesting, and that's interesting to me, because I like I said, I think I know you pretty well, but I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And because everything that you just said is pretty much that's what I believe in. That's what I believe. I believe in an energy. I believe in I will never say that something is not true, because I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what isn't true. I could not agree with you more that I think that people exploit that, the fundamentals of what Christianity is about and what it should be is wonderful, and the message behind it. But I think that not just Christianity, a lot of religions are exploited.
When you have an organized religion, sometimes it's really hard, because there's people who I think what changed for me is that I really started asking myself questions consistently, where it was like, well, why do I believe this? Or why do I think this thing? Or when I say this and someone else hears it that's not the same, then how does that make them feel? And if I really am following Jesus, or like looking at Jesus as a mentor, or whatever you want to call it, it's like, well, I don't think that the way love is described, it's going to make anyone feel less than, or feel like they're wrong,
Right.
So for me, it's just kind of like, I'm in a growth and learning place all the time. And I think that spirituality is one of the best ways to do it. And, like, I pray and I meditate, but to me, it's like, they're all the same thing. Like prayer, meditation, even working out, or like going surfing, or going for a run, can be a form of prayer or meditation.
Yeah. So, all right. So we got to jump into this, because this has been, I know there's not a video of it, but we have to talk about it. Let's talk about the girl band. Let's talk about so for people who didn't know, Tiffany was, you're kind of, were you going after a pop singer career as a kid? Were you how did that come about, and where did it come about? Was it California, or was it when you?
So it was in New York on the East Coast. Okay. And I wanted to be a singer for a really long time. I did voice lessons, all that kind of stuff. And then it got to a place where I recorded a demo. I was writing songs, and ended up, probably, now I can't even remember, it was probably like freaking Craigslist, that I like applied to some like group that was looking for new members. And
were you out of the house at this point? Were you in college?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I like kind of joke that it's like, it was before that band Danity Kane that P. Diddy put together.
Yeah.
So it was like, they were trying to kind of put together like girls from all over the world, like 5-girl group band kind of thing. And I was so excited about it. With development deal, we were writing, we were taking dance classes together and stuff. And then it got to a place where they were only recording some of the girls going in, and not telling everybody else. And like, I think at some point they might have told me they wanted me to say I was younger than I was. And to me, just being who I am, I'm like, I don't want to start my career on like lies. Yeah. Like, if we're starting here, I'm going to have to carry this on for forever. It's like, no, this is not. So I don't want someone else to tell me what I'm supposed to be like as Tiffany Smith. Because it's like, as an actor or as a host, I still get to dictate that. And acting is, yes, when I take on a role, but I'm taking on a role. I'm not Tiffany Smith taking on some personality characteristics that someone else is telling me to do with my name.
Designing of what they think you should be and what you should look like, what you should wear. You got out of it before it got too crazy. Yeah, smart.
For me, it was, I like talking to people and acting more. So it obviously kind of sucked at the time because I was like, man, we were so close.
Yeah. How
But
long were you in that for?
I want to say we probably worked on it for about like a year, 8 months. So not like a crazy amount of
A
time,
long
but
time.
yeah,
That's a lot of work.
yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. So then when you're in New York, did you have a good college experience? Did you know that you were coming back to California when you were in college?
No. Mm-mm. I mean, college was great.
Yeah.
Like I said, my education that I got there, I am so thankful for because I majored in broadcast journalism. I minored in the music industry because
Yeah.
that was around the time when I was like, oh, I can learn about contracts. So then I can write my own and sign my own contracts.
Right.
Um, and like I said, broadcast journalism was great. I made some wonderful friends that I'm still really close with and definitely have been Zooming with over the holidays, not holidays. I keep calling it holidays sometimes.
It feels like a crazy Groundhog Day,
Yeah.
messed up, bad holiday, good holiday, strange holiday. It's bizarre. It's like the longest vacation ever that no one wanted.
It's true. I keep going back to that. It feels like Groundhog Day.
Yeah.
It is like there are days where I wake up and I'm like, feed the dog, walk the dog,
Same
sit
thing.
on the couch,
Yes.
feed the dog, walk the dog, sit on the couch.
But I'm jealous of all of you that are as much as you're like. I was just talking to Kate Mulligan about this, who is also, she's got kids, and it's like we don't have it that easy. We don't have it that easy.
Here's what I will say though.
Yeah.
I had to get a dog because I was by myself.
Sure.
Like, and as great, I'm sure as that sounds at times for people who have like a partner or kids.
Yeah.
It's so weird when you're like, wait, I haven't hugged like
Yeah.
I mean, I started quarantining pretty strictly back in March.
Yeah.
So it's like I didn't hug another person for a really long time, or just like be in the same vicinity with someone. So it's like grass is always greener kind of thing.
Yeah,
like,
no, I mean, I joke. I mean, I when I was talking to my wife about it too, it's like this is the most, because I was working, going to the office and traveling and stuff too. That this is the most, and I've been able to spend a lot of time with both my kids and my wife, and I get to watch them grow up. Unfortunately for them, they're growing up in the house. They're not growing up at school and doing these things. And granted, it's only been it's almost a year, but it's a lot of time for kids, you know. But still, I'm not going to tell you that I wouldn't like to sleep till 10 o'clock in the morning as opposed to 6:30 every morning, you know. And so
yeah, I mean, yeah, anybody who got a dog or puppy during quarantine is not doing that.
True, but you could both take naps.
Early.
But you both take naps.
Yeah, it's true.
He's probably sleeping right now or getting close to doing it.
Yep.
Yeah,
he is sitting next to me.
I'm sure he's starting to pen. And now that he got out of the pen, he's ready to have a snack and then crap out. But all right, so then so you're not sure how does G4 that whole thing, how does that attack the show? How does that come about?
So I moved to New York and I didn't right after college, and I didn't think I was going to audition or do stuff because I kind of was like, I need to get a regular job, like work and get a paycheck, and I don't want to audition. It's too scary.
Yeah.
So I worked in a modeling agency for a little while. I was a booking agent's assistant. And then I was like, no, I actually do want to start auditioning for stuff. And so I worked at a gym for a while, which this is like one of the highlights. It was a gym in on the Upper East Side, and Obama came in like before he was president. Yeah. And I did, everyone was like, oh my gosh, Barack Obama's here. I was like, what? So that was really cool. But I worked there and started auditioning for stuff. And then I ended up booking, I worked for Ford for a while and did the car shows. Cause I grew up going to the car shows with my dad. And so those took me different places in the country, and one of them being Los Angeles. So every time I came out to LA, I was like, okay, I'm going to meet with the agents. I'm going to do everything that I can. I'm going to meet with people at G4 if they'll see me.
Right.
And fortunately, like through connections and work and blah, 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 I was able to. And they kind of were like, you're great. You like comic books. You're, the same. You're definitely the audience for us. But they were like, we can't really do anything unless you're living out here. Cause it was right around the time when Olivia Munn was leaving the show. And before that, they were having people come in to do the feed, but they weren't having people come in to co-host. And so it was one of those things where I'm like, God, universe, synchronicity, everything lining up perfectly that I could move back out here. And there was opportunity on G4 for me, which to this day, I'm like, it's the coolest. And I'm so thankful that I got to be part of that crew, because it's like, I'll still book jobs and people will be like, you were on G4. Like, it's such a cool, and Blair Herter is a good friend, and Allison Hayslip and Jessica Chobot. And, so I'm always still around a bunch of those people.
They're coming back, apparently. The show.
Yeah.
Have you had any conversations?
I don't really know what's going. I mean, I've chatted with Blair because we're friends.
Yeah.
But I don't know crazy details or anything. I'm definitely down to like do anything that I can to work with them again, because it's it's one of those things where it's like I look back and it's so weird, but I'm like, my whole social media, like everything I learned about social media was pretty much from the time when I started working at G4. Because I remember I would do Attack of the Show and do the feed, and I would leave the show and then sit in my car, or as soon as I got home, and tweet back to every single person that tweeted at me.
Yeah.
Because the fans of that show were so dedicated and so sweet and welcoming and kind. And, it's so cool that, I can look at how much I've grown and all the different things I've done. And there's still fans that will be like, I started watching you on G4, or I started watching you on Schmoes Know.
Yeah. Cool.
And seeing the different things. And I'm like, it blows my mind that people are that excited and caring to want to like follow what I'm doing, which is, it makes me really
I also just says a lot about you. It's the fact that why I think that Mark and I responded to you the way that we did, because you're with the G4 thing was like 2010, 2011. Is that around this?
I think like 2011 ish, I think.
Because you and I met in 2012. So we were at an audition. It was me, you, and Mark together, and we always it was a girl from the Hills, right? It was this girl from the Hills.
What's her name? It was Spencer Pratt's sister.
Okay, so and I remember that we were, and I think she was fine. I think she was fine. She was fine inside the audition, but I just remember the three of us hitting it off, and I think that we were all rep by the same by Marky at the time.
Yeah. Yep.
So Marky Costello. So I had said to Mark, because I remember at the time that Katie Sackhoff was in and out. Katie was the host at the time, and she was kind of in and out because of obviously she was working all the time.
Yeah.
So I said to Mark, I was like, let's bring that girl Tiffany in, man. She seemed to vibe pretty well. And then I think you just came in for like a spot, and you just vibed. Did you think that we were idiots from the start?
I didn't. I didn't know. I love talking about movies and TV and all that kind of stuff. So it wasn't like whatever the audition was for. I'm sure we were talking about movies and television.
Something like that, yeah.
That it was like, if I meet people and we can talk about that stuff and they're as excited as me, especially if it's like anything geeky related, then even better.
Right.
So I feel like when we met on the audition, I was like, these guys are cool. And I was like, oh, you have a podcast? Awesome. Yeah, I'll do it. Which is kind of even still the phase that I'm at now, where it's like, if someone is cool that I meet and they're like, I have a podcast, I'm like, cool.
Well, because back then there weren't hardly any video podcasts. There were very few, and there certainly weren't a lot in that space for like 2-hour like live shows. So it was different. It was different. Yeah.
Well, and I was like, I think I felt like when we met that time, I was like, even if this other show doesn't happen, like maybe we could all do something together.
Yeah.
And so, what?
Little did you know.
I know.
I know.
And then I did the show, and it was just fun and funny and free. And, I think that I go back to this all the time, that it's not that Schmoes had fake characters.
Yeah.
But we all had personalities, and it was like, you're this category, you're this thing, you're this thing, like a sitcom, and I think so many times, like, that's what so many people try to do. And it happened really naturally for all of us, that it was like, yeah, I'm the kid sister that's like, ew, I don't want to talk about that. Like, but I still am one of the boys in a lot of ways too.
100%. That was what people didn't understand. And I'm so glad that you said that, was that even though there were those things inside, we all knew how to play it up and heighten those personalities. Like, and you, to your credit, you were so great about, like, you knew exactly what I wanted with the whole Finstock thing. Like, because that entire thing, because you weren't there for when he debuted. So when he did and he showed up, it was a natural reaction to who is this? Yeah. But you guys got along very well. You I remember when there was pictures of you guys playing like ping pong together, and like, because that dynamic with the two of you wouldn't have worked if you didn't like him in real life. You know what I mean? Yeah. And people didn't.
Because it's like, I mean, it's weird because I know for a time I was kind of like not reviewer. I've never been a reviewer. I've been more of like I'll do junkets and things. Yeah. But I can find something positive in almost anything. Yeah. Like, I will try my hardest. So with him, it was one of those things where it's like, when I met who he actually is, I'm like, he's great. He's a cool dude, interesting guy. This other guy,
right, the mask
guy, is disgusting, and I hate him.
Exactly. And then he proposed to you, which is still one of the greatest moments ever. It was so good. Then you returned the favor, and you did it a year later when you and Campia were teammates. So there's a lot of great moments, a lot of fun moments on that show for sure. I mean, because you were with us for quite a while, and then after you went off to kind of start doing your own thing, someone's going to start doing the bushes in my studio. So, but you started doing your own thing and just building up your resume and getting other gigs, and then we found our way back to each other when we were doing the Fandango show, the movie threesome show, which that show was like one of the highlights of my career. I loved doing that show. It was so much fun because we would just do these silly games with each other, and it was refreshing because you didn't have to learn the other person. You know what I mean? We knew each other immediately.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I think it's when you're doing hosting or acting, there's sometimes where chemistry is so easy. Yeah. And there's other times where it's like, you can have immediate chemistry, but it's hard to build a chemistry just from knowing someone for a long time, where it's like, I know what your buttons are and you know what some of mine are. And like, if you want to have a reaction to this, or like, I'll want to do some silly Instagram thing, or I just feel like it's rare to get to work with people for that long in this industry, and not have it be, we started on this show together. So it was cool to get to go into Movie Threesome, having already had a relationship as friends and working together on the podcast, then going into this show, which I loved Movie Threesome. Even though I lost like every single bet.
Oh yeah, you can't. People don't realize that. You can't bet against me because I know that I'm not a jerk.
Yeah. This is why I don't do any trivia, and I don't do any.
Well, I want to let you know you are going to be coming back to the Movie Trivia Schmoeville next season as a full-time competitor. No, okay,
no.
That's not confirmed. That is not confirmed. But either way, yeah, I agree with you. We had a lot of good laughs. It was a lot of fun. We got to do, like we said, we got to do Sundance. Do you remember when you and I when we were at Sundance, we interviewed a lot of great people during Sundance, but when we got a chance to talk to Diego Luna, and he had just filmed Rogue One, and we were talking to him on the stairwell. Do you remember that?
Yes. We were like, can you tell us anything?
Just anything. And he didn't really tell us anything at all.
He didn't.
Yeah, it was great. Like,
I feel like it's all you want is the person's face to look super excited, and that's what he did. It's like, how can you not make that face when you're talking about Star Wars?
It's true. Are you loving The Mandalorian like I am, or?
Yeah, I loved them. I mean, there were episodes that I didn't love as much, but overall, I loved it. Like,
so much. Can't wait for it to come.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, they're like, that's been a quarantine thing. I've been watching so much television. Like, I made a list of what I've binge watched, and it was a little embarrassing because it was just too many. But Mandalorian, I rewatched. But if anyone has never watched this show, I cannot recommend it highly enough. Black Sails.
Cobra Kai?
No, Black Sails.
Cobra Kai. Have you watched Cobra? You mean no? Have you watched Cobra Kai?
I'm saying my recommendation.
I'm asking you if you watched Cobra Kai.
No, I haven't watched Cobra Kai.
You have to watch Cobra Kai. You love Cobra Kai.
Yeah, I know. One of my friends was just telling me that I should watch it. I was like, okay. I was finishing. I've been in a deep dive on Star Trek because I did the original series. Then Next Generation. Now I'm watching Deep Space Nine, and then I was rewatching Discovery because I wanted to get caught up for.
I can't do the Star Trek. Just can't do it.
None of it.
I mean, it's funny because I liked J.J. Abrams' Star Trek. I even like Into Darkness, and I actually thought the third one that he didn't do, Beyond, I thought it was the most Star Trek-y, obviously, out of the three of them. And I actually really enjoyed that one. I liked Sophia Boutella in that one. But no,
I think the movies are they're very different than the series. Like, I grew up watching Star Trek with my family.
Yeah.
It was so funny because I was talking to my mom yesterday, and she's like, one of her best friends, she's like, we used to watch the show together and talk on the phone during the episodes of the original series when it was rerunning.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, I didn't know that, Mom. And then it was like, we started talking where it was like, we watched The Next Generation together as a family, and now rewatching all the episodes, I'm like, even the original series, I'm like, it was the first interracial kiss on network television. Like,
right.
That's insane. There was so much stuff in that show that I'm shocked that they were allowed to do and talk about. And I think that's what the TV series does a lot more. That there's just a lot of things where it's like, I don't know, speaks to society and how people interact with each other and makes you question things about yourself that I don't know if I get that as much when I watch the movies as I do the TV series.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. I just never responded to it, but I am with you. I watched more stuff, obviously, through quarantine things. I rewatched Cobra Kai again. Watched all that, but I've been watching movies, checking things out. I started Vikings, which was interesting.
Yeah, Vikings is a good one.
Yeah, that one's a good one. I'm trying to go through all the things. Oh, you know what I watched? And I've been talking about this show. You have, I assume you have HBO Max.
Yeah.
Love Life with Anna Kendrick. Have you seen this show? Nobody knows about it. It's
what is it?
So Paul Feig produced it, right? And it's really kind of like a modern day Sex in the City, but not as raunchy. And well, there are some raunchy scenes in it, but it's not overly raunchy. But it's her journey from, I think, like 2012 is when we first meet her, and the kind of the relationships, and each episode, only like half an hour episodes, and each episode is like a relationship that she had and how it, and eventually get to the end. And this does not seem like a show that it would be for me. And my wife wanted to watch it, and I just wound up falling in love with it. By the time we got to the end, she's like, "What do you want to watch tonight?" I go, "What do you think we're going to watch tonight? We're going to finish your show." And it was really good, and Anna Kendrick is phenomenal in it, and it got no marketing whatsoever. Check it out because it's really good. It's on HBO Max. It's called Love Life. Anyway, so the big thing that we was talking about when you go from having, because you were doing everything, whether it was DC stuff and you were doing red carpet, you were doing Marvel stuff. You were everywhere as far as hosting went. And then you really started to kind of kick your heels into acting, and I saw your face when I said that you're really successful in acting. You're like, yeah, and I was like, you're doing really great things, because from what you did to transition in, and then you got that whole arc on Supernatural, like the whole episode was about you. The majority of it, like, you were in a lot of. How did that Supernatural episode come about?
Supernatural was, I just auditioned.
Yeah.
I auditioned for it, and then I think I found out a day or two later that I booked it, and then I was in in Vancouver for 2 weeks, which was awesome. And I was a fan of the show, but definitely not like rabid. But getting to do it, and obviously, like, me with research, that it's like, as soon as I got it, I was like, I'm watching every bit of this show that I possibly can. Right. And it was awesome because it's like, you work in the industry long enough that there's so much overlap of people, and I have friends that are friends with the guys on the show, and so I got to set, and it was like Jared Padalecki, he was like, "Hey, like, so and so said that you were coming," and so that was just nice to feel super welcomed onto the set, and not to feel, because it was my first guest star on a show that, like, I watched, because Jane the Virgin was more of like, it was a co-star, I think. But where it was more like the episode, I did more in the episode. And I just remember there's one scene where it was like, Jensen had to throw this amulet to me. And I was like, I'm not the most athletic person when it comes to coordination, like stunts, dancing, I can learn all that stuff, but like you're going to need to run and catch this thing that's on a chain that's not going to come at you like a ball would. It's like,
Oh my God, I pay so much money to watch. I pay
what?
so much money to watch all of this go down.
This is what I will say though. I must have hyped myself up so much and was like, okay, angels, God, everything. You need to help me because I cannot mess this up. So I totally caught it on the first try.
Oh, that's
I was
great.
so happy. But yeah, because it was we were about to shoot the scene and Jensen came up to me. He's like, so how good are you at softball? And I was like, it didn't click in my head why he was asking me. And I was like, oh, I only played t-ball when I was little and I used to get hit in the head like every time.
Instilling confidence everywhere you go.
And he's like, cool, this is gonna be great. And it didn't click until I was like, oh, you were trying to see if this scene was gonna how long was this scene gonna take?
Well, it didn't take long. So you got it.
Yep.
Good. And so that you nailed that, Jane the Virgin, as you said, but the one that, obviously was the one everyone I remember in our space talking about, and so bizarre to me was when, and I'll say, and for a reason, for when you got, when you were cast as Meghan Markle. And I don't say it was bizarre because you were cast, it's bizarre because I actually had known her at one point. And I remember texting you immediately when I heard saying, this is crazy. What are you going to be doing? And so that was your first kind of big starring role in a movie, and
for sure,
yeah, as your first lead. So how that overall experience for you, like, are there things? Because I feel like with stand-up comedy, I'm the same way. I look back, and I go, I would have done that differently, would have done this different, but because I told you, Sadie and I watched it, and I thought you were phenomenal in the movie. But I always ask as artists, because I feel like artists are never always looking and saying I would have done this, or maybe you say no, I'm glad I did that, but maybe with more. I don't know. Like, how did you feel about overall the experience?
The experience was like game changer for me.
Yeah,
obviously. I mean, maybe not obviously, but it was my first time being a lead. It was the first time I had to do like love scenes. It was the first time I had to do emotional crying scenes. There was a baby, there was a dog. Like, it was so much. And knowing that this project was riding on me and Charlie, who played Harry.
Yeah.
And it was weird because I think you have moments where you audition for things or you go in for a project, or I'm sure everyone, where it's like you go in for an interview and you're like, like, yes, there are nerves, but there's just a feeling of like, this is mine or it's not. And
right.
I feel like it is mine.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I worked really hard. I definitely like worked with a coach. I watched as much stuff as I could. This is one thing that I was going to say. I forgot when you were asking me about moving so much. My dad always used to ask me on my first day of school, like, what are you going to wear on the first day? Like, what do you want people to see about you?
Yeah.
And like when I moved from California to the East Coast, I wore like Rusty, No Fear, like all kinds of California surfer girl stuff. So I still do that now, where it's not about like, oh, what do I want to pretend I'm like? But if I feel a certain way, I'm going to dress a certain way. I love fashion, whether it's geek or, sustainable, green, whatever it is. But for this one, it was fun to get to look up stuff with her where it was like, okay, what was she wearing? What kind of stuff did she wear before she started dating or before they got married?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll wear this, or something that it was things that like, how can I find what feels the most me in her? And the shooting experience was, I feel like it was grad school for acting.
Mm-hmm.
It was 3 weeks and I was home after, and I think it was maybe a week or two after that the trailer came out.
Yeah.
Which doesn't happen. Like, normally you don't shoot and get a trailer that quickly. Which was actually really amazing because for it being my first lead, I was nervous because I was like, I don't know. I think I'm doing well on set. Everyone's saying I am, but like, maybe I'm going to watch it and be like, oh my God. Like, and so getting to see the trailer so quickly after was really encouraging. And as cheesy as it sounds, I definitely like teared up a little bit watching it because I felt really proud of myself that I was like, is a big undertaking. I left, and when I went to go shoot, I was definitely nervous. I was,
well, because like you said, it's on. Well, there's a lot of different reasons. One, like you said, it's a movie that's all on your shoulders. Plus, you're playing one of you're playing royalty, and you're playing one of the biggest personalities in the world at the moment. And there's of course there's a lot of pressure. And with that and I know I asked you this last time, and I'm sure the answer is still the same, but no contact from her ever at all, right? No, I wouldn't assume so.
I mean, one day maybe, but I think it's one of those things where it's like yes, it was there's pressure of her being a real person, obviously.
Yeah.
There's also the pressure of, what I think was interesting is like some of the pressure that I felt, not even close to what she feels, but where it's like, oh, I'm taking on this role and representing someone who means so much to multiracial and mixed girls out there, or just people of color, that taking that on, and then also taking it on after another actress had done it and done it so well, which I think that was one of the things for me. I always want to be, as like talking about spirituality, where it's like I always want to be learning and growing, and I don't ever think I'm finished. And I reached out to Parisa. I was like, a friend knew her, and I was like, do you think she'd talk to me about the project? Because I just want to like take any gems of wisdom that she has, and if she's willing to chat. And we have become friends. We talked on the phone for like hours before the movie. We went to lunch and stuff a bunch afterwards. She just booked an amazing show. She's going to be on Triage. I think she's the lead on Triage, pilot that just got announced. But yeah, so I always, like, I walked on set, and the first day we shot stuff, because I was like, I don't know what camera lens does what. I don't know all of that stuff. I don't really understand what everyone at that time, like what everyone's job was.
Yeah.
But I knew it takes everyone to make this movie look good. I want to make them look good. And if I'm doing what I can to help them, like hopefully they'll do the same for me. And I think it developed just a really good relationship, because it was like the first scene we shot, it was in the car driving up to see Harry at his house. Yeah. And I was in the car with the AD, and I just looked at him and was like, so this is my first lead project. Like, anything that I can do to help out, or, just let me know. I'm totally open to learn. And if I'm doing something dumb, like, please tell me. And from then on, it was kind of one of those things where it was like, they knew that I was willing to learn from everybody. And it was great. I could not have asked for a better cast and crew on that movie, because it was just, it was amazing.
Well, and now the other thing you got, I don't know how much you can talk about this yet, because there's not really much information on it, but you were announced as one of the cast members in the He-Man voiceover, which you know when that happened, how you kept that from me. I'm still never forgiving you for that, but I got, Kevin Smith was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and we definitely talked about He-Man. We talked about He-Man when he was on SEN, but like I'm obsessed with it, and from what his take and understanding kind of where he's going with it and the whole process. Can you talk at all about what you're doing or what you're involved in, or not really?
Not really. I can tell you my character's name is Andra. Okay. And she's awesome. And I voice her.
That's all you can tell me. Did you shoot her? Can you tell me if you already shot?
We did record stuff. Okay. And I didn't know we were allowed to, like, here's the thing. Kevin will post things, and I'm like, okay, Kevin posted like a photo of us in the booth, and I was like, cool, I guess. And then once the actual announcement came out, which that in itself was so funny, because I didn't know who else was cast on it. The thing with voiceover that's weird is that a lot of times, like, you don't record with other people, you don't ever actually get to be around everyone at the same time. One, because it's a series, and two, because it's, you can do voiceover from all over the world, which we're seeing even more of now as we're all in quarantine. Yeah. But when the list of names came out, I was like, oh my God.
Really awesome. Really awesome. You have to, once you're able to talk about it, we're gonna deep dive into that show. Sure. I don't want to keep you any longer. We've been thank you so much for joining me today. It was awesome to catch up. I feel like you and I, if we wanted to, we could talk for like 5 hours. Yeah. But
I was like, I feel it's sad because I'm like, we're gonna have to like offline so I can hear what's going on with you, because this was like, let's talk about Tiffany.
Well, that's what the show is. That's what the show is.
I know, that's what I'm saying though. We have to offline. So
we will, absolutely we will. And when we're able to, we'll go get we'll grab food, grab some lunch, whatever it is. But it's great talking to you. I'm glad that you're doing so good, and I'm glad that there's more stuff to come. Obviously, I'm glad that you got Loki. That's awesome.
Even when he knocks my computer off the TV stand, now he's like totally fresh asleep. I mean, that's what I was like, shoot, because this morning I had to. The industry's starting up again, so it's self-tapes and stuff. So he literally is like, "Oh, you were gone all morning working. Now you want to do a podcast? No, you're gonna play with me."
Exactly. 5-6 months. I get it. The great Tiffany Smith, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you check her out. You can go. Is it still Tiffany's Tweets, or did you change it?
No, it's Tiffany_Smith.
There you go. Tiffany_Smith. See, I know you're old school. Tiffany_Smith, and check out all the stuff that she is doing, has done. Just look her up. You'll be and watch old episodes of Schmoes, because those are some really good ones back then.
There's some great ones.
All right, Tiff, as always, it's a pleasure to have you. Pleasure to have you guys. Make sure that you rate, comment, do all that. Go to the Apple Podcast and leave us a rate and review there. It's important. It helps the show out tremendously. Gets us high on the list on TV and film. Got other great episodes. You can check us out on YouTube. Also air these on Fridays. They air for the podcast listeners on Thursday, but Fridays we're on YouTube. So, all right, guys, thank you very much.
Go vote.
Definitely. I think at this point, everybody will have voted when this comes out. Maybe it comes out this Friday. You're right. Vote. All right, we'll see you later.